Hello everybody and welcome back to part 2 of this 2-part little mini-series regarding the state of War of the Visions, Final Fantasy Brave Exvius, and moving forward with it. Now if you missed part 1, I'm going to go ahead and drop that link down below, so go ahead and click on that and give it a good watch if you want to see the current state of the game. This one is going to be covering the future of the game. Now, for anyone who's already been playing the game, you may have noticed that we received an official producer's letter from Hiroki himself. This is also coinciding with a stream he had with Justin, our community manager, and this was essentially deciding that the Japanese and the global team are going to be combining and unifying to, as they say here, create a smoother development environment and bring our global players new content sooner so they don't have to wait as long to enjoy new experiences. We believe this boost to our development capabilities will allow us to deliver a better game experience for all. So up until now, you'll see they mention that most content has been released with roughly a 4-month delay when compared to the Japanese version, which has been nice for a lot of people as they get to then plan ahead on what they want to use their Visior and other resources for. However, they're going to try to bring them together to simultaneous releases. Now, obviously, processes like translations and localizations and other quality assurance things do remain necessary. There will be times where things may be delayed by maybe a week or two, sometimes a bit longer. Now, their goal is to launch both versions and convert them into a worldwide version by the end of September, as mentioned previously in the letter. So there's going to be changes to the existing release schedule. That being said, assuming that there are going to be no more global exclusives or any other additional global buffs besides those that are already planned and released, what we're looking forward to is a massive Road to the Worldwide version campaign. Now this is going to include a variety of units, vision cards, and other such events and updates to move forward with. And now this is all going to be taken care of by the time we get to September. Now further down we have a question and answer format, basically saying what's going to change in the worldwide release. Will we be able to join guilds and play with the Japanese versions and other stuff like that. So essentially, to bring it down to the nitty gritty, there's going to be 2 anniversaries now, one for the Japanese version and one for the current global version, but we're going to celebrate both of them on both versions. There's going to be no more global original characters. However, it doesn't mean that any of that is missing or disappearing. It just means that there will be no further ones. Additionally, releases are going to be right alongside. The servers will still remain separate. DLC is released on Wednesdays for global version and on various days for Japanese. They're going to be shifted alongside to the Japanese versions at the end of September. However, they'll keep us informed about that. And the game user interface is going to be adjusted for ease of use, will be kept as is in the global version, and they'll just be changing the names of both apps to the worldwide version, so we don't even have to change anything additional. Now, that being said, we've got a lot moving forward here. So, we're going to be looking at a bunch of units that are going to be coming forward, as well as some information about them to help you and anyone else decide on who, if any, you should look for or pull for. So the first unit we have coming into play here is going to be Raph. Now Raph here is going to provide a lot to the table. In fact, she's probably going to be one of, if not the best tank for quite a time being. She's a dark 100 cost unit. She's a magic scaling tank with a potential for a total of 10 starting hate with only her master ability and passive, but can obviously be added more if additional items or vision cards are used to amplify this. She's a hybrid debuffer and tank combo with the ability to remove shell, re-raise, decreasing dark resistance, all while increasing her own light and dark resistance, debuff resistance below 50% health, and the ability to cast her own re-raise that allows for an auto cast of her area of effect resistance skill. Access to Spellblade sub means that, similar to Black Rose Helena, she has access to Dark Slash, which makes her an excellent chain option to be used alongside other Dark Slash units in endgame content. And her Limit Burst extends the elemental chains by 1 turn for the targets, which is even better for the situations previously mentioned, because it allows her to essentially extend the chains by 1 turn extra, so that even if the other enemy takes a turn, you can still continue to chain. Next up, we have Faris. Now, she is a 100 cost water unit, and she's limited to Final Fantasy V collaboration. She's an attack scaling slash unit with access to a base of 40 defense and slash resistance penetration in her kit from just a single passive. She has additional buffs in her kit that allow for increases in physical damage, additional defense penetration, as well as protect, shell, and increased area of effect resistance, increased accuracy, and decreased AP consumption while these buffs are active. Paladin and Pugilist subjogs give her excellent bulkiness in the form of passives and active skills, with Taunting Blade allowing her to take the alternate position as a tank. Limit Burst increases defense penetration, decreases enemy CT, increases her own CT, likely allowing her to take a follow-up turn shortly or immediately after. Keep this in mind, she may be disgusting to use alongside of Keen Blade. Following that, we have Celebratory Jaden. Now he is an Ice unit, 100 cost, magic scaling Pierce unit. With options to stack agility and magic, thanks to both his Grimoire Keeper and Cleric subjobs, he has the potential to be an extremely quick and hard-hitting unit. He has skills that remove re-raise, apply physical damage barriers, increase single target and slash resistances, and break magic barriers. He's capable of lowering enemy slash resistance penetration by up to 30%, as well as applying hate to enemy units. That seems to be an interesting concept and a bit new to the game. Access to the Grimoire and Cleric subjobs allow for restoring of his own and ally HP, so he can be an off healer if necessary, as well as debuff and buff opportunities, including increasing light and dark resistance. Now his Limit Burst applies a maximum of 38% pierce resistance decrease before dealing damage, which is nice for those hard to beat pierce tanks. Moving forward, we have White Dress Alea. Now, one thing to quickly note, the translation of this is not officially provided just yet. However, White Dress is just a rough translation because technically it's meant to be provided with the white fabric that's used during the Cherry Blossom Festival. Moving forward, she's currently a limited unit, although that may change with the global version before worldwide release. She's Lightning, 100 cost unit. She has a small AP auto restore TMR that gives strike attack buff, and she is a strike attack primary damage unit. She's attack scaling. She has operative and gunner subjobs, which give her access to a wide variety of damage types. She has a ranged strike attack similar to jamming thrust, that also decreases CT for the targets and allows for a selection of up to 3 units in a wide area of effect. It increases strike resistance penetration by up to 40% through this use, and has a small area of effect courage that also increases area of effect and slash resistance while the courage is active, while also decreasing the chance of being targeted while the HP is equal to or less than 20% of the maximum HP. Now, if all of that sounded a bit confusing, I don't blame you because it was confusing to me at first. However, I'm just trying to read through rough translations. Her Limit Burst decreases lightning resistance by 50% for 3 turns, but increases the effect for every enemy less in the area of effect, meaning that if there's a maximum of 3 or more enemies, it's 50%, but if it's as low as 1 enemy, you can get up to 60% decrease. Next, we have Comral. Now, he is a Fire MR unit at 50 cost. He's a strike main damage type with Nightblade and Sniper subjobs, and he has access to defense penetration and area of effect resistance in passives, as well as good damage variety thanks to his subjobs. Likely to be free through quests, and there's not much really to note about him. I'll be covering him further on in a free-to-play guide video. Moving forward, we have Bronwell. She is a dark 70 cost unit. She is a slash main damage type with Paladin and Dragoon subjobs, providing her with access to increased jump and high range skills to damage enemies above or below her. Up to 55 innate defense penetration when combined with passive and master ability. Area of effect resistance on her passives, access to a physical barrier that increases pierce resistance, and grants regen while applying an on-hit effect to decrease the enemy's defense penetration by up to 30%. She has a large range diamond area of effect target select ability that dispels protect and shell, while increasing slash resistance penetration by up to 40% and absorbs up to 50% of the damage done. Her Paladin subjob with Sentinel provides a lot of bulk, as well as access to Taunting Blade for off-tanking, and her Limit Burst increases defense penetration by a further 40% and decreases the enemy's defense and spirit penetration by 40% for 3 turns. Moving forward, we have Melnia. Now, she is an Earth unit, 100 cost, and she is a missile main damage type unit with Ranger and Trick Lancer subjobs. Access to high levels of missile resistance and defense penetration, as well as reflex, or should I say, the I'm gonna make sure that you miss reaction ability. She has skills that increase in damage against enemies with haste and AP auto regeneration, a large area of effect, protect and dispel of auto revive on enemies from self, as well as increased damage, defense penetration and AP auto restore. She has a large range area of effect, a 2-target selection skill with the chance to put the enemies to sleep, as well as a long range, small area of effect skill that dispels all buff for the target, haste, and physical and magic damage increases. Her limit burst breaks physical barriers for the target, has a high chance of inflicting poison, and increases Man-Eater against that target while the target is poisoned. Again, very confusing stuff, so please pardon any confusion because we are dealing with just rough translations. Moving on to the final unit that Japan has that we have yet to see is Shalze. Now again, that's a rough pronunciation, but she is a fire unit, 70 cost, magic main type damage. She has Cleric and Kododama wielder subjobs, which means that she has access to a lot of buffs and sure hits from both of those classes. She is primarily a buffer, with buffs that grant regen and increase physical and magic damage with a large area of effect target selection ability, as well as access to an increased area of effect resistance skill, light resistance, dark resistance, and protect, as well as restoring AP on a critical hit for allies, much like Cloud's ability allows for. She also has access to a full life alternative in her unique main job skill, and the Cleric subjob means that she has a debuff Dispel that also restores CT for the target, meaning that she can quickly get to other units to taking their turn. Her limit burst allows for Courage to be casted on both herself and one other ally, while decreasing hate for herself by up to 6. However, this limit burst costs AP to use, a grand total of 58, meaning that its overall use case may be subjective. On top of all those units that we're going to be receiving, we're also going to be seeing a bunch of cards. Now, the cards are nothing super crazy or special to write home about, especially since aside from the dark versions of the Espers, they will have likely the 5-step guaranteed pulls that we can then use to obtain these, and hopefully we'll have those free guild shards left over, or return, should I say, for those. That'll make them easier to build. So, what's going on with the game then? Essentially, all of this being released was usually supposed to be a 3 to 4 month schedule. So that's all going to be condensed down into the next 2.5 months. What does that mean for global? Other than the change to the release schedule, nothing. We're not getting anything special. We're not getting a bunch of extra visual from, to compensate for all of these, shrunken down and compressed release schedules. But we're also not getting anything negative. Now, there's been a lot of changes that are already making people unhappy, and as I addressed in my previous video, there's no current guild shards for the current Final Fantasy V units and vision cards. Whether that's a bug or not, I cannot say because I do not know. However, if it is intended, we will likely not see any provided for Faris when she releases sometime in the next week or two. As far as events go, that's probably going to be the most concerning matter, because we're going to be looking at a compressed series of events throughout the next 2 months, and those are going to involve back-to-back-to-back grinding. Now, with all that being said, again, as with anything, the decision to play or even spend money on this game is entirely your choice. But if you have any further thoughts, opinions, or something else relating to the game that you'd like to share, or additional information that maybe I missed, or that you'd like to correct, feel free to drop a comment down below. Like the video if you liked it, dislike it if you disliked it. Don't forget to follow, like, subscribe, all that mumbo jumbo. And as always, stay frosty.